Hey guys, what's up? So this is Fallout 3 and this is a really good game. It is basically a real world game where you go and walk around in a post-apocalypse kind of reality. It's sort of like Skyrim, but post-apocalypse. It's sort of like, that Elder Scrolls series, Oblivion, Skyrim kind of video game, but it's post-apocalypse. And basically, it's also done by Bethesda, and Bethesda is the same people that did Skyrim and Oblivion. And what's interesting about that is that it's exactly Skyrim and Oblivion, except it's in a different genre of world. And I really like what Bethesda's doing with these games. I mean, first it was Oblivion and Skyrim with the fantasy world, and now it's like a post-apocalypse world, but it's not in the future. It's sort of in the past a little bit. And I take it like because what happened in the video game, it seems that there was a nuclear war during the Cold War around the 1950s, because all of the styles are in the 1950s and lots of things are from the 50s. And it looked like there was a nuclear war sometime around the 1950s, and people were in nuclear bunkers for a while, and then they came out of their nuclear bunkers, and it was a wasteland. It was sort of like Mad Max Fury Road kind of world, Mad Max Thunderdome kind of world. And Mad Max Fury Road came out after this game came out, and I did notice that I think they took a lot of ideas for their movie from this game, because it was very, 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 very Fallout related. It was more Fallout post-nuclear war kind of reality where everything's a desert and all of the cities and towns are destroyed and run down, and a society is just factions of people, ganging together and trying to survive, trying to find food and gasoline and to power their vehicles and fresh water, and it's sort of like that. So if you like that kind of genre, if you liked Mad Max, Thunderdome, and Fury Road, and that kind of post-apocalypse genre, you will like this game probably. I also did find that there was a little bit of a difference between this game and Skyrim, where people that seem to like fantasy games really liked Skyrim and Oblivion, whereas people that didn't like Skyrim and Oblivion that much, they just didn't get into it too much, because you really have to like fantasy to play that game. It's just fantasy. It's all fantasy. It's like 100% fantasy. And if you don't like dragons and monsters and swords and knights, even though Skyrim is an amazing game, you might not like that game world that they created. But a lot of people who are not, that I know personally, who are not into fantasy, really liked Fallout 3. Because Fallout 3 is like, I always like ask people like things like, oh, did you like Skyrim? Did you ever play that one? And then people would be like, I don't know if I liked it that much. And then I would say, oh, did you like Fallout 3? And they're like, yeah, that was amazing. And so I feel like if you didn't like Skyrim or Oblivion, check out Fallout 3, because it takes the best parts of the game. It takes like that whole game. It just changes the genre of the game, of the game, the world that it's in, into a post-apocalypse. And I really think Bethesda's really on the mark with this. They should make more genres with the same game, because like the gameplay of Fallout 3, Skyrim, and Oblivion, that gameplay is really good. It's an open world. You can explore different places. You're not like stuck going from level to level to level to the next level until you finish the game. You go from place to place. It's more realistic. You might go into one town and explore it and find equipment and treasure or whatever, right, in those towns. And then you might find enemies that you're gonna, combat with, and it's fun. It's all fun with that. And then you're also gonna explore some of the cities and some of the people. You're gonna meet the people that are in the game, which is also fun. It's also cool to have some degree of talking with the other characters that are in the game. If it's interesting, if they keep it going, if they don't make that too much of the game, they just make it like a side game, then it's really, really cool. So Bethesda's really on the mark with that. They should just do more genres with the same exact game, since they already have that game designed out. I mean, it's that open world game design, like now that they have it, they can do a science fiction one, they can do a like spaceship battle one, they can do anything with that. They can do like underwater worlds, they can do all kinds of like, I mean, they can do any genre. They can do a mystery genre. They can do a spy genre, right? They can do like a sort of like a 007 game or whatever, or like an espionage game or a thieves game. You know, like sort of like they did the same thing with Assassin's Creed, where it's an assassin game, but it's also in an open world kind of setting where you can go from place to place and choose your quests and choose your adventures kind of by itself, rather than having a game like Hitman where you go from one level to the next level and you have to beat the level in order to go to the next level. And it's a little bit annoying because what happens is that like you kind of get stuck in a level sometimes, whether it's an opponent you can't beat that you've tried 50 times, or it's just like you can't find which way to go to get to the next level and stuff like that. It's really, really cool that you can play through the whole level, or you can kind of like play through some of the level, you can get bored of it, or you can say it's maybe too difficult or whatever, and you could leave the level and play something else and then come back to the other level when you're like leveled up a little bit and you're a little bit more powerful and you can beat the opponents or the whatever non-player characters are in that level. So that's really, really cool. And this is what I think of the game though, like personally. I liked it. I just personally didn't like, I mean, I like that, and I also liked Fury Road. So I dug the, you know, I could do like a movie of this kind of post-apocalypse or post-apocalypse punk kind of genre, which is cool. Like Fury Road was cool, but I did, you know, the thing about like Fallout 3 is you are in this world and the world is destroyed. Like there's nothing nice about it. Everything is rusted, everything doesn't work, the water is contaminated, it's like everything is destroyed, it's all desert, and everyone is just trying to survive, and there are like all kinds of like punks in there, or like factions of people that are always trying to like maybe they're warring people, which are just trying to like basically like survive by destroying other people and taking their stuff, taking their food, taking their equipment, and surviving that way. Because there's a lot of scarcity in that world where, like, you know, if you basically can't find food or water or the proper equipment, you know, you'll just die. And then it's just like everyone's fighting for survival in a world that's been destroyed. Just the concept is negative. You know, just the thought of it is negative. You know what I'm saying? So I like Skyrim a lot because I like the fantasy stuff, but this is understandable if people don't want the fantasy stuff because it's the same game. But if you don't like the fantasy, you could still experience that kind of game if you play Fallout 3. Because a lot of people will like Fallout 3 even if they don't like the fantasy thing. They did the same thing with, and it wasn't Bethesda. I don't think Bethesda did Fallout. The science fiction game Mass Effect. I don't think it was Bethesda, but Mass Effect was cool. It was an open world with science fiction sort of like elements. It was in the future. It was maybe a few hundred years in the future. There was space travel. There were spaceships. There were colonies on other planets. There were civilizations on other planets. There were aliens and robots. There was advanced technology, laser guns, laser electronic, you know, like advanced weaponry, advanced armor, advanced like equipment and things like that. It's cool because I liked that world. That world was really cool. Like the Mass Effect world. The only thing about the world was cool. The game though, I found was like 80% world exploration, which was nice, but it was 80% world exploration and it was like 20% action. You know, and it would have been better, you know, if it was more action, if it was like 80% action and 20% world exploration, that would have been cool, but whatever. But back to Fallout, but the thing about Fallout was where Mass Effect was a pretty world, and you know, and so was like Skyrim was also, it had its nice things in it also. I mean, it's had its like dungeons and obviously monsters and skeletons and all kinds of, you know, crazy, you know, demons or whatever it was, in those worlds, there was also nice castles and people dressed up well, and it was like medieval basically. But Fallout, I didn't like the world so much. I liked the gameplay; it was cool. The world was a little bit downtrodden. Now the thing is, I didn't play through the whole game, so maybe it's like you kind of get into it a little bit more, and it gets more interesting as you go on. But I did play into it enough to get like a good idea of whether I want to continue playing it. I definitely do want to continue playing it, but I don't know like how. But the world just doesn't resonate with me. It doesn't like really. I don't feel like I like exploring that kind of world. I do like the combat because that's what I'm playing it for. You know, I'm not really playing it to explore this post-apocalypse world. I'm playing it because I want to play through the levels and I want to play through the combat and pick up all of the weapons and level up and the armor and all the survival thing that you have to do to survive in this game and get to the next level. And I like doing that. And what I like about Fallout 3 is there's a lot of that happening. There's a lot of combat. The only thing is I just noticed, maybe this is because it's still like too early in the game. And I'm saying like early in the game, it's like it's not really that early in the game, but this game is so huge that I don't know how big this game is, you know, and I'm not even sure. It's probably gigantic because Bethesda did Skyrim, and Skyrim is gigantic. It's hours of play. It's like you could just play through it for a long time. And what was nice about Fallout 3 was after playing Oblivion, it's hard to find another really good game because it's such a good game that when you play like the next game, it's still fun, but it's like, not as good as Oblivion. You know, so this one was cool because it was made with the same sort of like game engine as Oblivion, you know. So so that's what's cool about the game. There's a lot of cool combat, even though it's difficult at times, because I found that like the weapons were kind of weak, but I guess you get better weapons as you go along, and like the armor was kind of weak and it was kind of hard to defeat some of the enemies. Like it was just the weapon was weak. Like they would have laser guns and you would try to shoot the enemy with the laser gun, and it would just do like no damage or like a little bit of damage, and it's you're like, well, what the hell? And then you'd lose your whole laser pack battery, and then you couldn't use the gun anymore, and it still only did a little damage to the opponent, to the guy that was shooting at you. So yeah, so that was the thing. But it was okay. I mean, that's okay. The levels were cool and the combat was cool. It is a little bit of a downer about the actual world that it's in. So I'm just thinking that like you would like this if you like post-apocalypse world games. If you didn't like too much like Skyrim and Oblivion, some people didn't like those games. You might like this one because it's a really, really good game to play, you know. But I don't know. And there was like a lot of different there was a lot of like weird kind of like quests in it. Like there was one like town that was sort of like positioned over a non-discharged, like a non-exploded nuclear bomb, basically. And somewhere in that town, you basically attain the key to turn the nuclear bomb on and explode and destroy the whole town. And you get the chance to do it in the game. Like they give you the key. They say, oh, it's a non-exploded nuclear bomb. Here's the key to it. All you have to do is plug it into the bomb and turn it, and then it'll explode the whole town. And it's like, well, what kind of, why would you want to do that? You know, you also have the you know, the choice of not to do that, and then I don't know, you kind of like hand over the key to the person in charge, and therefore so they can keep it safe and so the town doesn't get blown up and stuff like that. But it's kind of weird. It's like, that's kind of weird. And when you start off in a bunker where it was post-nuclear war and you're in a bunker, and then you have to go through like a few hours of like sort of like gameplay inside the bunker before you leave the bunker. And I thought that gameplay was a little bit lame, and I thought it didn't start off that well. It's the kind of game that kind of gets better after a while, but it doesn't start off that well. It starts off, you're in a bunker, and there's a lot of the different 50s. Everything's like 50s designed stuff, which I wasn't too into because it's just like, I'm not really into like the whole 50s genre, the whole 50s design in it. So I didn't like the 50s thing. I didn't like the Pip-Boy, the whole idea behind it, which was, it's a nice piece of equipment, but it's designed like a 1950s piece of equipment. And the clothing is 1950s, and the people are like, they talk like they're in the 1950s. And so that wasn't like, I wasn't into the 1950s. I also wasn't into the whole like, the world is destroyed and you have to survive and explore it. But the thing about the 50s was like, I just wasn't into that. There was too many things in the game that I just wasn't into. However, I do find the game good enough that I will keep playing it. It's like I got into Skyrim a lot and Oblivion a lot, and I played through the whole game. But when I started playing this, it was just hard to kind of like play through that world. Now, I'm pretty sure it changes and there's different ways to play it better or whatever, because it's such an open world game. But because it's sort of like, because it's like post-apocalypse, nuclear war, 1950s, that wasn't as cool. What was cool was the post-apocalypse punk part of the game, where you had these people that were kind of like post-apocalypse, and they were trying to like, they would try to shoot you and stuff like that, and you would have to get through the levels by shooting them, and that was cool. Like the combat was cool. I did find that you like run out of weaponry very, very quickly, and you run out of ammo very, very quickly. And it's really hard to continue playing the game if you don't have ammo or weaponry, because you do get shot at, and it's really difficult without having some kind of like strategic way to defend your character or destroy any of the enemies. So that was cool. There was a lot of good action in it. But then again, it's also like the action is sort of limited to the levels, and sometimes the levels are too difficult, and sometimes the levels are like too easy. But there's also like, but that's good. But there's also like nothing to find. There's no like treasures there really. Like in Skyrim, there's treasures, there's like magical equipment and magic weapons and armor. There's like spells that you can find. You can find, enchanted rings, which will give you certain powers. But with this one, it's like, there was like, you could find weapons and you can find armor, and then you can find like food, and you have to like eat the food. But all of the food was kind of gross. Like, it's just kind of like, the food was gross because it was like rad roaches, and it was disgusting. It was like the food was really bad, and a lot of the interaction with the world was kind of gross. Like you would turn on like a faucet and like just rusted water would come out of it. It was just like, man, I don't know. Like I just didn't like the world so much. I wish they would have done this a little bit differently, like maybe in a sci-fi world on maybe another planet, where you explore like a planet, or there's aliens, or there's like spaceships, or just anything where the environment is not so like such a downer. Just the thought of that kind of environment is a downer, and it's a great game. I just didn't like the environment, and I didn't like the whole 1950s genre, that the whole game is sort of like everything that's designed in the game is designed from the 1950s, from the Pip-Boy to like the Nuka-Colas and all of the stuff. It just wasn't my kind of like, it wasn't the genre, like it wasn't really the environment that I enjoyed playing in. The genre was okay, but it really wasn't the environment like I enjoyed playing in. It would have been, if Bethesda keeps doing these games in different genres, I think they hit on something with these open world games, with like Skyrim and with Fallout 3 and with Oblivion. They really hit on that design of game is a keeper. That thing, you know, that is the right way to design a game. It's just, just immense. It's like, it's immense. It's immense. It's like there's a map of places you can go and things you can do and things like that. And then, but if they do different, like maybe sort of like, it'd be cool if they did like an Avatar world game or something sort of like built around the Avatar world, that, you know, from the movie Avatar. That would be a cool world to explore because it's a nice looking world. And when you step on the branches, they light up, and it's a forest, and the people that live in the forest are like tall and they're all blue, and you could fly these birds and you ride these horses with 8 legs, you know. That's a cool world to make a game around. You know, just a really positive world rather than like a post-nuclear war environment. You know, and I guess some people dig it. I know some people that just love the post-nuclear war, the whole genre. They're really into it. They like how everything's destroyed. They like the 50s style of everything and stuff like that. And that's who the game is for. It's for the people that are into that genre so they can play that world. But Bethesda's got to keep making these games and just put them in different genres and put them like, you know, maybe an Avatar world, or maybe just like a spaceship where you basically go from planet to planet and you have quests and you explore the different planets, and all of the landscapes are different. If you do it like maybe a jungle kind of like sort of like a jungle sort of Indiana Jones kind of game where you're like exploring a jungle and you're looking for treasures, and there's all kinds of like booby traps everywhere and people, you know, with blow darts trying to shoot blow darts at you, and you're running and you have to like hop into a plane and get away. That whole adventure thing, that would be cool. That would be a cool environment. This game type is a keeper. This game type is really good. The way they made this game is really, really good. This whole, the whole gameplay dynamics and the whole game structure is cool, but they've hit on something with the structure, and they should just continue making these games with different genres of worlds, but make it something where it's nice to explore the world. You know, like it's just like that's nice to explore. Like in Oblivion, some things are nice to explore. Like the castles look cool, the people are dressed cool. There's magic items and stuff like that and stuff. You know, even though there's demons that you have to destroy, there's also a lot of like magic, and it's kind of nice. And I don't know, maybe it's just because I like that genre, but a sci-fi genre, a futuristic world, maybe it's not even like that science fiction, but like a futuristic kind of world that's sort of like advanced and whatever, where you can like drive flying cars and explore caves and go into air, you know, spaceships, and have spaceship battles with other spaceships and stuff like that. That would be cool, you know. So I like the game. I like that kind of game. I like the genre. I basically like Fallout 3, but it's just it feels like the whole world that they're in, the whole environment, is a little bit of a negative. It's just a little bit of like, I don't want to like explore that world, you know. I don't want to explore that world as much, and that's the only thing that's a drawback. It keeping me from getting into that game too much. But yeah, so let me know what you guys think in the comments if you want, and thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in another video later.